Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. Yes, that's our banner, right in your face, but that's our podcast name. Welcome to the Full Quota Podcast. This is South Africa's number one cricketing podcast. My name is Mpho and Tim. I've got Tim DeLace here. We're going to talk all things that are happening in South African cricket. This past week, we had a whole lot of things. But before we do anything else, we want to wish you a happy new year and all the best for 2023. We hope the Proteas can do something. But so Tim's here with me. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, mate. All good. Still slightly in the festive mood. Haven't quite got into the mood of going back to normal life, but otherwise, all good.
Yeah, no, that's good. Speaking about New Year's resolutions, what's your one resolution for South African cricket in 2023?
To make 300 as a test team.
But we're gonna have like 4 tests. You do know that, or 5.
Yeah, but if they can make 300 once, then I'm happy.
Okay.
No, but seriously, a batsman at the top 5 that makes it his own. We've had guys the last 3 or 4 years said, I want to take number 3 my own, number 4 my own, number 5 my own, and to a large extent they've all failed. Every single one of them has failed to a large extent in that quest, from Tinnis to Brain to Russell van der Dussen. The list goes on. They're not terrible, but they haven't gone on. Aidan Markram, they haven't nailed down that test position that they have been given.
Yeah, we don't have
runs.
that guy. We don't have that guy that can just, you know that he's going to score runs. There's no Root, there's no Williamson or Conway. There's no Virat Kohli if he can score runs, but there's no Marnus or Steve Smith. There's no Ben Stokes. There's no one in that side. It's just like everybody just pulling their weight with their small little averages, which is a good thing because they've done well to get to the point where they are third best in the World Test Championship. Obviously, the Test rankings are something different, and so really, really good from them. But I think from my end, it's just hoping the SA20 brings in a new change in South African cricket, brings in the much needed, the resources that are obviously all obtained from this windfall go to the right places, and we create development pipelines, networks. I know that's everyone's thing, but I think from a Proteas perspective, it's to not be embarrassing in a World Cup again. I just don't want to be embarrassed again, and I hope with the T20 World Cup, or the Women's World Cup happening in March, that actually we can get to the final and see if we can't win that. So I hope our Momentum Proteas ladies are hard at work. Obviously got the under-19 series happening now with India, the under-19 World Cup starting in less than 10 days, and then you've got the Women's World Cup after that in the next month. So there's a lot of cricket that we're going to be talking about, and good luck to Oluhlesiyo with her under-19s going for the first ever under-19 World Cup here in South Africa. Tim, so our podcast today is going to be two-parted. One's going to be a test preview. We're going to talk about that now. And then the other one's going to be the one-day cup recap finals. We had 2 games last week that were amazing games. And obviously see the Lions won. I wouldn't be wearing this if the Lions didn't win. And then we're going to talk about that. So if you want that part, go to the second half of the show. If you want the Proteas and figure out what's going on, come to the first part. And ideally we'd like you to watch the entire thing or listen to the thing. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. We also have audio versions on Anchor Podcasts or on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can find us there, listen to us, and share as widely as possible. This is the year this podcast grows. And if you want to subscribe, if you want to advertise the podcast, please send me a message, an email on mpod1wsr.com, and I will happily, we can do live reads, we can talk about your project, we can do reviews. So that's the spiel for 2023. So Tim, let's get into it, right? Proteas third test preview. We haven't seen the pitch yet. I don't think you've seen the pitch, but obviously we're expecting Simon Harmer to come in to the side. Obviously, everyone was expecting at the beginning of the season a series that he would come in here, and obviously one of the bowlers would step out, one of the quicks would step out. Australia, obviously, they've got their injury issues, and they're going to unleash. Is it Larry Norris or Lance Norris or something? Who
Lots. I think it's lots.
they
I think
claim
it's
is
lots.
of Brett Lee. So that's going to be quite interesting to see. But obviously, the big story is around our batting. It hasn't done well this tour, and now you have a situation where Tennis de Bruyn's going home after having played one game for the birth of his daughter. How do you feel about that? When you heard those news about tennis, what did you think?
I'm not a man who's soon to be a father, so I'm probably going to be slightly hypocritical in this way.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder about this. He's going to be home in 8 or 9 days. He's going to be home in 8 or 9 days. He's not going to be home in 3 weeks, 6 months. He's going to be home in less than 2 weeks. He's going to be able to see his child within that period, inside 10 days. When you've given a chance to come back into the side, where arguably you probably shouldn't be, particularly on form, I do find it a little bit strange. I'm not going to lie. I do find it a little bit... Look, if that is more important to them, then fair dues. I'm not going to criticize.
Look,
that's fine. But
Yeah.
the ramifications of that are, as if I'm a coach, I'm going, you know what? I'm going to go with somebody who is 100% committed to the setup. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I can see both ways.
So I think it's not a commitment from Tiernis. Tiernis probably told him this before the tour. So I'm happy for him to go because you want to see the birth of your child. You want to be there you want to be the first face they see when they come into this world. So I'm 100% happy. He has to go. Like, you wouldn't miss it for the world. The only issue I have is from a planning perspective, right? When they were looking at the tour going beforehand, when selectors were looking and writing down, I'm sure they had their prospective first 11 for the Gabba. Why didn't Tennis play in the Gabba? Why did we go to Rassie if Rassie's only going to play one game? I'm not bemoaning Tennis's thing. Tennis said he's available in these dates. They needed to make of it what they will. If they're going to play Tennis once, that's fine. If they're going to make him be 12th man for 2 games, then they've missed the opportunity because he's going home. So my question is, what purpose does it serve Tiernis and the rest of the team if he's only going to play one game? I'm not saying that we need it, but I'm just saying that it's just another situation of poor planning and poor thing. Because to a certain extent, if he wanted to go, but he was only, and you knew he was only going to play one game or he's going to be a reserve batter, why would you consider taking him if he's going to be a reserve? I understand if he was a starter, I understand if he was a contracted player for CSA, 100%. Take him. But if he wasn't going to start at the Gabba, why are you taking him to Australia? And that's my thing. I understand maybe you need an injury replacement and if he's available for the 2 tests, but what purpose does it serve him and the rest of the team if he's only going to come in for one game? Then he should have played at the Gabba. I'd understand if he played at the Gabba, played 2 games, and he goes home. Now he's going to play one game, and he might not play for the Proteas again. Is that fair? And it's not because he had the paternity leave. It's because he told them that he was his wife's expecting, because medical science has moved on. We know when our children are coming now, in what time, what day, even the second. So he's told them this information, and so it's not new. They knew this. So then why did he only play one game? I would have just started with him at 3.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent,
yeah. No, I was just going to say.
Planning, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree with everything you said. You said it far better than I did. And again, it centers around poor management of Tennis, the player. Tennis has been mishandled throughout his Test career. You could definitely make an argument that he's been mishandled throughout his Test career, and this is just another example where he's failed in one Test match, and you could say with Keegan coming back, he may never play for South Africa again.
Yeah. And we had an issue. We knew we had an issue with Rassie before Australia. There wasn't, we arrived at the gap and we're like, oh yeah, he looks really bad. Okay, let's not play. Right. And then the other thing, the problem it creates on the back end, right, is that now he's gone. Right. We knew this. We knew he was leaving. Now he's gone. Who comes in? They should have planned for this, right? So you've got Rassie, who's an incumbent, who you've dropped on tour after one game. You've got Heino Klaassen, who's on tour as some sort of a reserve wicketkeeper. That's the way I'm reading it, because he should be batting. He should be there before tennis, right?
Yeah.
Even if it means we push the batting order up one, right? And then so my question is, okay, so then what was your plan? Because so this is how I think selection should go and how it should work, and maybe the viewers and if you're listening and you're watching, you can send me a comment and say this is not how it should work. So if I'm going on tour, I have 3 11s, right, based on different conditions. Maybe the same 11, but it's 3 11, especially for Australia, right, with the SCG. So I've got an 11 for the SCG that I think I want to play. Right, and that has Simon Harm in it, and maybe one of Lungi out because Anok Nokia is 150k. So that's the SCG 11, right? And you have your batters in there, and So my thing is that if tennis does not appear on 2 of those, he shouldn't be going on tour.
Yeah, I agree.
That's how I would do it. So when you arrive in Australia, after the selection the panel has selected their 15. When you go as a convener of selectors or with the selector on duty with the coach, you guys know that these are the 3 11s you most likely will play. And if there's an injury, this is the first guy who comes in. This is the second guy. This is what it is. So you guys at least know what the game plan is leaving South Africa. And should things change, yeah, they do change all the time, and that's fine. Which is why the whole Rassie getting dropped after one test bothered me, because I was like, what were you guys thinking? Rassie's been like this the whole year. Nothing's changed. So that's where I'm at with all of this. It just reeks of poor planning. And then so the question obviously is, when they do the 3 things, they're like, oh, but he can't play in the 3rd test. So do you take him just for one game? And I'm sure tennis would be like, yeah, no, take me for one game. That's fine. He wants the opportunity, right? Yeah. But it doesn't serve the entire team, because now you've dropped somebody. It's the worst place to be in, because you've dropped Rassie. If Rassie comes back into the side, what is Rassie? Is he getting a spot back? Is he a replacement? Is it an injury replacement? What's his role if he comes back? Even with Heino Klaassen, right? Are you giving him an opportunity, or are you telling him he's an injury replacement? I'd rather sit with Heino Klaassen and say, yeah, you come in, you're an injury replacement, because either Keegan's in South Africa and obviously tennis, who are given the opportunity, is unavailable, right? But with Rassie, what do you say? How does it look? What happens if he does score 100, or he does actually light it up at the SCG? Where do you sit from a messaging perspective? And so we've seen that with JP Germany coming in back in 2008, and he scored 160 national. Prince never came back into the side fully again. But that's where I'm sitting with this batting lineup. But Dean, they asked him about 7 batters. He's not budging. He's going 6'5". He says he's a 6'5" man. So that's what it is. But Tim, what changes would you make in place of Heino Klaassen, not Heino Klaassen, Tennis the Brain going home? And anybody else?
If it's not Heino Klaassen, then I don't know what they've been smoking over there.
Would you move Temba up the order to bat at 3?
No. Actually, yes. Well, actually, no, I probably would. No, I would. No, I lie. Timber would bat at 3. That's right. For this one test match. Yeah, no, that's what I would do. Klaassen has to come in. Klaassen's in form better. For me, he can play as a batsman. He's proven that he can actually
Yeah.
play as a batsman. He's not there as a backup. Then it becomes a little bit tricky.
Mm-hmm.
So you got your Sydney pitch. Everybody says it's going to turn. Everybody says it's going to favour spin. It's going to be the most favourable of spin for the
Mm-hmm.
series. I'm very tempted to drop Maharaj. Not entirely his fault, what's happened in this series. Not entirely.
Okay.
I think he's been very badly managed um,
The
by
bowling
Dean.
coach.
I think Dean has no idea how to get the best out of him. Dean has decided for some reason, particularly the last test, that he is a hold-up man. He's not a wicket taker, he's a hold-up man. While the pace bowlers with
But
the
that's
extra, which is wrong. Which
but
is
Tim,
wrong. But
hasn't that been every South African captain since the dawn of time? That's why we
Faf
got Paul
Duplessis,
Harris.
Faf Duplessis used Maharaj correctly. Faf Duplessis used Maharaj as an attacking weapon. Faf Duplessis was the exception. Yes, I agree. But Faf Duplessis was the exception. He is the reason why, to a large extent, Maharaj is the number one spinner in the country.
Yeah.
But I do think something's not right with Maharaj, whoever's fault it is. He hasn't been bowling well at this tour. He hasn't been batting well, hasn't been contributing. He usually contributes something with the bat, a 25 or a 30, which can be very, very useful in the context of games, and would have been in that first test match. If he made a 30 or 35 at the first test, it's laughable now, but we could have won that test.
Yeah.
We could have won that test. But, so I'm tempted to drop Maharaj, but I probably won't. So I will pick Harmer for Lungi. Lungi just been a little bit short. Just been a little bit short.
I think a Keshav argument's similar to Lungi's argument, right? Everyone looks at the numbers and they're like, oh, they don't look good. And they don't, 100%. But it's a function of what Dean's done to them. And this is the issue I have with Dean. Dean thinks he needs 5 bowlers to take 20 wickets. He actually needs 4. And he actually uses 3.5. Because he uses Kagiso, Marco, and Anrich to take the large bulk of the wickets. And if we ever get to a day 4 or day 5, Keshav's going to come in. That's why it's a half. Because between Keshav and Lungi, they share the least amount of overs bowled. If you look at all those stats, Lungi's bowled the least amount. And it's funny because he opens the bowling with Lungi, and then after that, you'll never see him again. And in that opening spell that Lungi has, he's actually probably the most economical of them all. And so my issue is that one, I don't think Lungi should be opening the bowling in Australia. In South Africa, yes. In Australia, no, because I'd rather have Anish Nokia at the front because of the 150. But that's me. The other thing is that he doesn't rotate his bowlers much. He relies on Anrich and KG a lot. He bowls them a lot, and then Marco comes in if one of them needs a break, and then he'll either throw Keshav or Lungi as holding bowlers. And that was the issue when Vernon retired, right? I didn't want Lungi to be considered in that Vernon role because he's not a Vernon bowler. Clinton Steelman is in that Vernon mold, but even then he isn't. Lungi's a wicket taker just like everybody else, but you don't give him that opportunity to be able to give you spells to grow into a day of cricket. He'll go through a session and he'll only bowl like 2 overs, and you're like, what? So for me, that's my one issue with Dean's captaincy. But I'm with you there, and I agree with you wholeheartedly with the changes. The Maharaj thing is something that probably should have happened after the Gabba. If you want to drop Maharaj, you play Simon Harmer at Melbourne. But the issue with South Africa is not taking wickets. The issue with South Africa is being able to bat and bat well, because we haven't bowled the best, like we know we can bowl the quicks, everyone else, but it hasn't been. They haven't let the side down. Yes, Australia scored 570, but that's not the issue. The issue is that you couldn't even score 300. You couldn't even make a game of it. You couldn't give your fast bowlers a second crack at them, because in that second crack, like you saw at the Gabba, things can happen. And that's my issue. And that's why I would even go with 7-4, just play Rassie in, at 3, bring in Heinrich. They have 7 batters, and Dean, for the one time in your life, you'll be that second bowler, that second spin bowler, because you do left arm spin. I would drop Keshav, and I would play Simon Harmer, and I would be like, this is how I'm winning, because the 4 bowlers I have can take wickets at any point in time, and they are very dangerous. And largely because, like you said, the way he's used Maharaj as a holding bowler, Maharaj comes out, and you bring in Simon Harmer, and should be my 11 tomorrow, with Harmer coming in for Lungi, and you go Marco, KG, Anna, and then you go Tennis. Not Tennis. Tennis is at home. Congratulations, Tennis. You go Rassi and Heinrich. And this is how it is. This is your final stand. You have to win this one. Win one game in Australia. That's what we said, Tim. Win one game. We didn't think it'd be SCG. We thought it'd be the Gabba, but now we're here. And this thing of I'm a 6'5" man. No, Dean. You are a whatever I can win a game with. And the fact that he's uncomfortable winning games with 4 bowlers tells me about the type of mentality that they have on the side. I want a positive mentality. The question you should be asking is, how do I win a game of cricket, and can I win in different ways? He kind of feel like we can only win in one way, and he's stuck in that mold. And so, yeah, I'd like to see Simon in this game, and I'd like to see Dean bowl. But another question on Dean before we go over and we close the chapter: is this the last? Because everyone's asking for a revamp and a rechange and everything. Is this the last we've seen of Sarlo and Dean together, even individually? Because I think this is probably the last time we see Dean as a Test captain, as in Test whites, and probably even Sarlo.
That's a big call. That is a big call. I think Dean lasts. I think Dean continues. I think his longevity gives him a bit more time. He may well not be captain. That may well be true. He may well not be captain. I think that would be a fair bet.
Okay.
Sarwell's on thin ice. There's no getting way around it. Sarwell's on thin ice. Sarwell is playing in Australia. The ball does bounce a bit more, which he clearly is not accustomed to, being a boy from Derbs. But the lack of movement, I really thought would be playing into his hands. I thought if he could get in, survive till lunch, I really thought he would score runs. Really thought he would score runs in Australia. So it's been a huge disappointment from my point of view. He may well not be the Dean's partner against the West Indies in a couple of months.
Who would be Dean's partner? What's your early bet to be Dean's partner at the West Indies at home? I've got mine, and I watched them play.
I know who everybody wants it to be.
Who?
I know. And I get it, but I have the same problems. Tony.
No.
But I have got the same problems with him as I had beginning of the season. White ball, 100%.
Yes.
In the squad, 100%. And maybe potentially in the 11, the way the 50 over team's going at the moment. Test 11, no. I'm not thinking of that just yet. That's a difficult one. It is a difficult one.
It's between two for me. It's between 2 people for me. One is Tony. I can't ignore the 300. I cannot. And I know, obviously, and also the way he played in the Momentum One Day Cup, you're like, okay, he's on a patch of form. The question is, how long does that last? And does he have enough from a technique perspective to handle the rigors of Test cricket? I think he does. He may have his deficiencies, but I think mentally he's in a space where he can dominate at the top, and I want to batter like that. The other one is Joshua Richards. I know he's young. I know he's great. And people will say Jordan Hanman. I get, yes, I need 1 more season of Jordan Hanman. Joshua Richards has been doing this for 3 years. And on the bounciest and the fastest pitch in the country. Right? I don't know what happens on slow pitches. But to me, and also watching him the One Day Cup final, I was like, okay, he's got it. This kid at least knows from a big time perspective that he's the one. So for me, I'd want to see Josh Richards come in, right left combination, be great, beautiful. I think he's a free flower. The only issue is that he reminds me of Ed Markram. a less talented version of Aiden Markram, and that scares me because I've seen what Aiden can do, and I've seen what he hasn't given us. So, and I don't want to bemoan that, but I do think Josh needs an opportunity, which is why I say I'll only see Aiden in 2024, and it's time to give other guys a chance. Josh is top of the list.
Yeah, look, those two are the informed players. Those two are young enough to be there for the next 5, 6, 7 years, definitely. Performance-wise, they deserve their chance. That they're 100%. If I were picking one of those two, I would pick in Josh.
Yeah.
Josh is tighter for me. Josh is built for Test cricket. Tony is built for white ball cricket. That's why I'd go with
and
Josh.
England series, Tony should be in the side. Tony should be opening with Quinton, because Janneman's had the worst year I've ever seen from a guy who's won an ODI Player of the Year a year before. So to me, it's Tony and Quinton opening the batting against England in that week between the SA20s taking a break. But anyway, that's enough about the Proteas. All the best to the Proteas. Yeah, guys, win the toss, bat first, put runs down. You want to be bowling on that fourth day pitch. You want to be batting on it. And please, 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 can somebody put their hand up? Like, Dean's talked a big game, asking for people to put their hands up. Timber tried, didn't work out. Still not enough. It's not good enough. We need more. We need some, like, quite frankly, and I said this again, whoever scores 100 in this series gets to play Test cricket for the Proteas until 2025. That I can tell you. 100%. It's guaranteed. You become a contracted player.
Particularly with the fact that we played so few tests, that is a very good shot. That's a very good shot.
Yeah, and you might even get to play in the ODIs. So think about that. So if you're Kazondo, maybe. I don't know. Okay, let's move on to the CSA One Day Cup finals. We had two finals this weekend to close it out. The top two teams of Division 1 and Division 2 played against each other. Division 2, we had the AET Tuskers, KZN Inland Tuskers, who were number 1 on the log. And they played against the 6-gun girl Badgers. Garden Route Badgers, also known as Southwestern Districts. Really, really lovely game. Southwestern Districts put up 253 for 7. They really did really well to do that at away from home. Matthew Christensen's becoming a very interesting name that's popping up. Although he scored 46. Blade Kappel, who's been there from the day one, 38. Jedley van Bresis, 43. And you had contributions from Ongenyak, who scored 26 to 44. Sean Whitehead, 25. Peko Molizani, 38. And Keenan Vieira scored 17 of 12 at the back end of that innings. That kind of helped them get through. From a wickets perspective, Malcolm Norfall took 3 for 48 for KZN England. Stefan Tate, 2 for 48. They seem to be a little bit ineffective at the top. Stefan Tate and Keith Dudgeon, but they came back in really nicely. And then you had KZN Inland trying to get themselves back in. They only could manage 242 in the reply. Yassine Valley scored 59. Tian Kukumu scored a 50. Michael Erland scored 38. Keith Dudgeon with a 23 of 22, but it wasn't enough. They just found themselves in a bit of a hole, just losing wickets at regular intervals. Bashir Walters, 4 for 46. He was the player of the match in that game. He opened the game wide open. And I just kept on going. He got the wickets of Kumalo. He also got the wicket of Mohagane. And he also got the wickets of Tian Kukumu in the back end. So he got 2 wickets in the first 2 overs, and then it just was the end of it all. But Tim, I know we both watched that game, but what a surprise! What a very big surprise that the Garden Route Badgers made it through. They looked like a team that could compete for promotion, and I think they may have many regrets about that, but this win shows to me and everybody else that they still got it.
Yeah, look, they're a team. They're a team with no real big names. The only real big name, so to speak, would be the Waters. Waters is a seasoned Division 1 player. He's been around a long time, a Warrior stalwart. He was at Province last season. And it was really difficult for him last season because,
Yes, it was.
as I've said many times before,
And he couldn't get a
all
game because you had all those
all
left
all,
armers.
all province bowlers were injured. So when he did play, there was a lot of pressure on him to perform when there was everybody else was out injured. But he's always given 100%. Always. He's a 100% cricketer. He knows his game very well. And yes, okay, the game against Border wasn't a semi-final in terms of name, but it was in everything but name. His 3 wickets in that game, and his 10 not out, and his 4 wickets in the final. He is the reason to a massive extent. He's a huge say as to why they won the title. Massive presence. And that's what those Division 2 sides need. They need guys who have played in Division 1, who know the game, who know what to do, and they add value. They add incredible
and that's
experience.
to a certain extent what Northern Cape Heat have added to their squad. It just obviously didn't have a great tournament, but that's essentially what their squad looks like. It's guys who played franchise cricket, but now are playing there and are pretty much dominating there as well. Tim, let's look at the promotion relegation and what it looks like. So obviously what I've done is that I've got a subtotal, which is the current, what the log looks like. And then I've got a total, which is adding what the 4-day series live log in gray looks like, what it will end up being a total at the end. So Northern Cape Heat being at the top right now of 4-day with those 15 points, even though they're third on the log, they will end up being promoted. What needs to happen for essentially the Tuskers and the Garden Route Badgers is to win the entire tournament. Whoever wins the 4-day series is the one who's going to go through, right? Obviously, there's permutations, everything else. You just need to make sure, for instance, right? You would need the Tuskers to win. Effectively, whoever wins goes through, because even if Northern Cape Heat gets 40 points, the only way the Tuskers go through, get promoted, is if they win the entire tournament. So, so it's set it up. And also for the Garden Route Badgers as well. They have a chance to make it in. They're currently sitting in 5th on the log. They've got a lot of games still need to play. I think they have the most games still need to play. And so they can move up. They can move up very quickly to get themselves in. And it sets it up, Tim. Sets it up very nicely for the next couple of games in February.
Yeah, look, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think Badgers got 4 games. Tuskers got 3. Northern Cape 2. So the pressure on Northern Cape to win both of their games is enormous.
Yes, and one of the games is against Eastern Storm, which is not an easy game.
And when it comes to, we didn't mention before, when it comes to the last round, Tuskers play last. So they will know if they are still within a chance of victory. Then they'll know exactly what they need to do in that final game.
Yes. So also wanted to talk about the stats for Division 2. Just putting up the batting stats for Division 2 in there. Cool. So it ended like this. This is the top 14 batters in Division 2. Jordan van Heert, Jacques van Heert, I don't know. Is it
Joshua.
Yes. 524 runs. At a high score of 147, average of 262. He's someone that should come into Division 1, but he's really having a great season across board. Keesner from Limpopo, 330. Ruben Herman, 291. Lots of nice names there. Yassine Valley for KZN Inland, 257. Tian Kukumur, 239. Grant Thompson of the Northern Cape, 223. Yuri Sneeman, 221. That's just the runs. Michael Erlang, 218. And this is the interesting, obviously, look at the Southwestern District guys only coming in now. Van Breeses at 213 and Christensen at 201. Really interesting season for them. But they've managed to make it through with their bowling, and they managed to steal it, and that's what it looks like, Tim. And then obviously you got Kabelo Sekhukhune there, 192 runs for Eastern Storm. He didn't get a game for the Warriors last year, but good to see that he's in the runs there, Tim. Any interesting names that you see there, Tim?
Well, the only one there that you would consider an out-and-out former franchise player with consistently is Grant Thompson.
Yes.
Everybody else there is essentially a Division 2 player who has played a couple of games, the odd game here and there for franchises,
And
but they are
the Kukunes,
yeah,
the Unkems,
yeah. But as you said, if Joshua van Heerden, he's got a decision to make, because does he go to Division 1, where he may not play every game, but he'll learn a hell of a lot as an individual, or does he stick in Division 2 a little bit longer and play every single game and continue to dominate?
And see if he can't promote Border.
Yes, and promoting Border after this season is actually not so much as a crazy idea. It is actually a possibility. If they just
one season.
If they just get one or two good guys in there from Division 1, they've got a decent side now. They've got a decent nucleus of side. Yeah. So promotion is a possibility.
Yeah, that's season. The Linyati, by the way. That's the Eastern Cape Linyati.
Yeah.
Okay, from a bowling perspective, this is what it ended up as. Bashir Walters finishing at the top with 15 wickets. Malcolm Norfall with 12. Stefan Tate with 12. Some really interesting names. I see Jade de Klerk there with 11. Zakele Kwabe with 11 wickets as well. Ernst Kem, 9. Keith Dudgeon with 9. Thomas Caber with 10. Carl Nipper there with 9 as well. Just some of the names you expect to see from the big hitters here, Tim.
Particularly the top sort of 5, particularly the top 3. Top 3, Walters, as we've already experienced, the experienced franchise cricketer. Stefan Tate, the same from the Warriors as well. Now he's played quite a lot at that level. Norfolk's played overseas in New Zealand. So you would expect those guys to be there. You would expect them to be there. The Thomas Cabers, I've been saying this a long time. If he's not playing Division 1 next season, I'd be very surprised. Not just because of what he offers, but because of the numbers that he produces season after season. Very good spin bowler and very handy batsman. So there are no real surprises in that list, in the top list, but just guys that you knew were there, and they've backed it up. They've backed it up that their numbers are really good.
Yeah. So let's move on to Division 1. The Lions against the Western Province, 1 versus 2 at the Bullring. I think if it was in Newlands, I don't think the Lions win this game. But we got a game. Obviously, it was reduced by 2 overs because of the rain that happened in the day. But what a spectacle. Like the fans who were there were treated to some incredible cricket. The Lions top 4 all scored half centuries. Joshua Richards 94, Rickleton 75, Reza Hendricks 69, Mitch van Buren 62. Evan Jones was pushed up the order to pinch hit. He scored 30 of 16. Vian Mulder scored 10 of 6. From a bowling perspective for Western Province, all the bowlers got 1. All the main bowlers, Hendricks, Nandre Berger, Mareki, Wayne Parnell, George Linder got 1 wicket each. In reply, Western Province started really well. Obviously, they lost John O'Bird, but Tony DeZorzi, Ed Moore, 88 for DeZorzi, 82 for Moore. And then Zubair Hamza looked out of touch. He was out for a duck. But then George Linder came through with a 42, Daniel Smith with a 24 at the end. But it just wasn't enough there, Tim, for you guys, because Lutro Sapamla opened up the game with 2 wickets in the same over. In the 24th over, he got the wicket of Tony DeZorzi. Then he got Zubair Hamza straight after that. And that just opened up the game. And his 5 for 71, he was man of the match. He got that. But Reza Hendricks at the end just cleaning up with 3 for 18 as well. But Tim, as a Western Province supporter, how do you feel? What do you think of the game? How was it? Because you sent me a message at the 50 over mark to say, you know what, it's fine. We've lost. But did you expect the fight back like that from Western Province?
I'm not that surprised at the fight back, because I knew it was a good batting wicket, but at the same time I knew it was 50, 60 runs too many. I knew it was. 300 would have been, really tight. Not just on the fact that we made 296, but 300 would have been really, really tense. I knew it was too much because bowlers of the Lions, they know the links to bowl in Joburg. Province don't. Province thought, you know what, which is a little bit strange for South African bowlers. They thought, let's pitch it up. Let's pitch it up.
Oh
The ball
yes,
will
that was
the
because
ball
of the
will
short boundary.
yeah, the ball will swing early on. We'll get a couple of early wickets, put the pressure on. So I get that, but they overdid it. It wasn't good length deliveries. It was largely half volleys.
Yeah,
You know,
I think they got
50 after.
stuck.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we got stuck on
50.
two minds because when they arrived at the Wanderers, they were playing on the left-sided pitch, right? And so you had this little short boundary that goes onto the bank, where even if you bowl anything short, even if it's like uh, uh not even like just not even too full, if you just short or full, you could be hooked over onto the stand, and you didn't need much power. And so that kind of played in their mind, and you could see it as it came through. The Lions also struggled with that a little bit, especially with Dzozi and Eddie Moore putting on the runs. And you kind of were like, okay, so effectively here, you actually need to be straight. You have to effectively be straight and quick. And if you're going to beat somebody, you're going to beat them on the extra bounce, not necessarily on necessarily getting them caught on the boundary. Because yes, the one side was large, but they just couldn't ball short to that side of the field. And guys were trying to cut over point and give themselves an opportunity to do that. So I thought it was a really tough day for the bowlers. I actually felt that if it was a little bit more even, you could then come in with a couple of short balls, which is something I thought Province should have tried either way.
Yeah, particularly with the extra pace that they have, Mareki and Berger. So they didn't really have a second game plan. When game one didn't work, they thought, well, it'll eventually work, and it didn't. It never actually worked.
Yeah.
So for all my talk about the bowlers being our strength, in this final they actually weren't. They were our enemy. They let us down. But I'm not too despondent. You know, first final in 8 years, and Province have been in the doldrums for some time.
Yeah.
Despite having good players, they will learn. They will learn.
And it's a good comeback. And
Yeah.
look, it's a young batting side. It's and they got to the final. The bowlers are a little bit agey outside of Nandre Berger, but people are seeing what's happening in Western Province, and I think that's something that could bode well going forward, because a lot of people left to go to Paarl. But now this season they're seeing that actually they can challenge in all three formats, and you're still in that 4-day series. If you win that 4-day series, which you should, which is possible, then you're there. So another trophy for the Lions every year. Over the past 5 years, a trophy has come through to the Wanderers, and well done to Coach Wandile. This was a perfect tournament. Sisana Magala played well. Vian Mulder played well. Evan Jones played well. You see, I'm not longer calling him Evan Russ. Really awesome. But let's look at the stats. So from a batting perspective, this is a top 14. Top of the pops, Ryan Rickleton 452 at an average 64. You've got Tristan Stubbs. These guys should be in the next squad for England. Rickleton, Stubbs 361 at an average of 60. Tony Dzozi 360 at an average of 51. Rezo Hendricks still there, 347 with an average of 43. Aiden Markram. But anyway, 68 average, had a great tournament. Diego Rosier is a nice name that's come through. Lesego Sinokwani as a keeping option. Maybe he should be a reserve keeper. I don't know. Maybe Cal Verena. I don't know what's going on there with him in the ODI side. He's had a great tournament. Josh Richards, you see the 298 there. Jordan Hadman, Mitch van Buren, Eddie Moore scoring runs, Yanaman Malan scoring runs. Sona Muchisami is in there as well in the top 14, and Braden Proteas coming up in the 14th number there. Those are the names we know. Those are the names we thought were the next generation. So maybe it is time to give them a chance. I see Senaran Mutasami in there. He appears in the bowling stats too. So that's also an important one there, Tim.
Yeah, particularly with, as you say, with the new setup that we're going to have sooner rather than later, as far as the Proteas are concerned. As you say, there's 7 guys there that need to be in the Proteas setup, as far as I'm concerned.
And is that top 7?
So you have your top 5. The top 5 is there. That's a given. Then it's, for me, it's Jordan Herman, and a guy that's always offered something. He's always looked good when he's batted, but maybe not quite put in the numbers. But this season he's put in the numbers. It might be a little bit tricky to get him in with all the guys that we've got in already. But Mitchell van Buren,
Yes.
I'm a big fan of Mitch. If Mitch is not somewhere in there, there's SAA maybe. If we have an SAA tour, if he's not in and around that setup, I'd be very surprised.
Even in a T20 setup, we should really look into him. Let's look at the bowling. Let's look at the bowling before we go off. Sisanda Magala leading with 17 wickets. You got George Linder, Akona Mnyaka with 15, Zad Abrahams, Hardistville Unit 13, Tapamareki with 13. Similar names, Andile Tuguayo appears with 12 wickets there. Senran Muchisami at the bottom there, 14th with 10 wickets. Just the same old guys, next level. Just Sisanda's the one for me, where you're like, yeah, no, this guy is proving that he's pro-tier level.
Yes, and we've always known that he is pro-tier level. We're not going to go into the why he's not in, but we know the reasons that he's not in, according to CSA. We know them. We may not agree with them, but we know them, so we don't need to go over old news. The one for me is George. George being back in form with bat and ball in the white ball formats is a huge plus for South Africa. It's got a headache now, because we've now got a lot of those sorts of players. The Muthusamis, Bjorn Fontaines, George Linders. You know, there's a lot there to choose from. It's not easy. You want to pick one.
Just always went one way. It was always one man's kingdom, and to a certain extent, it may not. Thinking about in the future, it may never be one man's kingdom. You can split it across. But Tim, I think let's end it there. Thank you very much. We're going to have another show after the Proteas finish the Sydney test. So have a great day. Thank you very much. And to all our viewers, remember, subscribe, like, and do all the things that happen. Outside of that, thank you very much. Goodbye. And le sale cacajizo.